All Out Fighting YouTube. I'm here with none other than legendary boxing trainer Teddy Atlas. Teddy, we're a few days out from the fight. A lot has been made about the corner from the first fight. I mean, what was your view watching that back as an experienced guy who's been in so many corners when you're seeing the dad of Tyson Fury giving advice, Andy Lee?
Listen, I can cut right to the chase, all right? I'm a believer that there's two parts to the answer for me. I'm a believer there should only be one voice. Hey, I've been doing this now, it's 50 years, I hate to admit it. But I was brought up in a way where Customato, who I thought was the greatest mind in boxing ever, that old saying, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. That my belief, and still is to this day, from the day I was, started with Cus when I was 17, spent 8 years up there in Catskill training fighters every day the way he didn't believe on a day off. Every day you're in the gym, training amateurs at night, closed on the day, every day. Try to grab a cheeseburger in between if you can. There should be one voice. That's why when people ask me, hey Teddy, you want to, come down, be an advisor? No. Either I'm the trainer or I'm not. Well, you want to be a coach? No. And it's not a ego thing. There is no ego. It's ego. I laugh when people, what is it? You have to be in the boss? Yeah. Actually, I'm not here to defend that. I'll give you the answer right away. Guilty. Yes, I do have to be the boss. Yes. If I'm going to be the trainer, I'm going to be the trainer. And that also means that I'll be the only voice in the corner. I was the only voice in camp. I'll be the only voice in the corner. And if the ship goes down, yes, I'll be on the bow, going down and saying it was me. And if the ship stays afloat, I'll just wave to you and try to be dignified and gracious and say, to the next chart, the next course. Good. But having said that, I understand the dynamics of the Fury camp and family, and I understand those dynamics, and those are dynamics. And I understand that it's worked for them up to this point. See, I understand that's part of my experience too, to understand that, yeah, for me it wouldn't work, but Teddy, he's had success for X amount of fights, got to the world title with that scenario, with that formula. So I'm not going to be the guy who's going to come in here now and knock it, because it worked. It didn't work that night, but it worked other nights, other difficult nights. And you can make the argument, well, they were nights against a guy named Usyk. Hey, you can always make that. But they were nights against what they had to be against. Significant guys, significant punches like Wilder, whatever. It worked. So who am I to come in now and knock something that worked for them because that particular night it didn't work? Because that particular night is usually waiting for everybody anyway. Yeah. Sooner or later.
What do you think Tyson Fury will need to do differently if he is to change the result from the first fight?
I think before you even get to that question, you have to go to where I was with your colleague earlier talking. What has he got left to do anything with? Because both these men, most people don't look at this way, but I have to. I never had another job. I painted a house. I did a good job when I was a kid. But other than that, this is it. So I got to look at everything. I got to try to understand everything. I understand that fighters in epic fights like that at older ages, which they both are, further in their careers, after tough fights, they leave something in the ring every time they enter that ring. It becomes a matter of who left more. So let's start with that.
Yeah.
Who left? There's no doubt they left something in the ring. I used the analogy earlier that I look at it, quite frankly, very similar to the great, one of the greatest, some people think the greatest heavyweight title fight of all time, the draw in Manila between the great Ali and the great Frazier, where those two men were never the same after that. They left a lot of themselves in the ring. I believe that both these men left something in that epic battle at this point in their life in the ring. Who left more? I think it starts with that. So, again, now you're going to go to camp and you're going to see, you're going to know to a certain degree. To a certain degree. You're going to know how much of that guy is still there and how much of him just ain't there no more. That is going to dictate your course of action of what you're going to do in the fight. It's going to dictate to me, as a trainer, as the navigator of that, as the guy who sets that course of direction, sets that map. There's options. Both guys are versatile. They can box, they can press forward. They've shown that.
Yeah.
They're versatile. They can do, they're dimensional. They can do many things. Fury started off as a boxer in his career. Big, huge guy, but a boxer with twinkle toes, moving around, boxing, and then all of a sudden when he had to, he became that guy who had to come forward and use that girth, that size coming forward. So he could do. Usyk was the guy pressing the fight the last time, wearing down Fury with that pressure, finally getting to him in the ninth round. Just always coming, the pressure breaks pipes, where it can break people, physically, mentally. He warmed down. But up to that point, Usyk, early in his career, we've seen many times, he was the boxer against Joshua to win the heavyweight title, where he's boxing, where he's using his legs, he's using his technique. He's cerebral. He's counterpunching. He's using his jab. He's putting punches together. So both guys have the ability to switch it up. What do you got to do? You're asking me if I'm in the camp of Fury. Well, one thing, sometimes I don't start with what you got to do. As a trainer all these years, sometimes you know what I start with? What do you have to not do? You have to make sure that he ain't going to be the boss all night wearing you down. That's where I'm starting. Yeah. First day in camp, that's right. Come on, let's get together, watch film. All right, come on. Here's what we're doing, fellas. We know what we're not doing.
Yeah.
We're not getting worn down. We're not letting him be the boss all night. So that means one of two things in my world. Not that complicated. That's not too complicated. Even I can figure that out. We're either going to be the boss pressing him back, give him a taste of his own medicine, or the way I would go, sort of a compromise, a hybrid, if you will, of the two things. Yeah, we're going to stay on the south side. We're going to use our wingspan. We're going to use our height, our size, but we're going to use our outside, but not just moving, where he can come in and press and come in without paying a price too much. We're going to set our feet. We're going to grab the canvas. We're going to control the outside. We're going to use that jab, control range, keep him on the outside, make him earn his way in.
Yeah.
We're going to be set. When he tries to come in, we're going to make him pay a price. We're going to do what I used to say when I was doing all the commentary on ESPN for all those years. We're going to make him go to a bad neighborhood. We're going to try to freaking mug him. And so, to me, you got to be set. You're controlling the range. You stay. Let him take the risk. And then make him pay a price for coming forward. Now, of course, Usyk sees that he's got an option too. He can go back to boxing, counterpunching, moving to the side. But as far as my responsibility to Fury would be that we're going to make sure that he doesn't become the boss in a fight, psychologically or physically, where he gets us to a place that he got us to the first time, to a place where we've been worn down. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
We might lose, but we ain't losing that way.
Yeah. Slightly different. You've obviously worked so many great fighters, and you've worked as an analyst and watching so many great fights. Where does Oleksandr Usyk sit in kind of the pantheon of greats? Because undisputed cruiser champ, undisputed heavy champ, Olympic gold medalist, he seems to have done it all. But would he transfer to other eras?
Every era is their own era. Really. It's hard to go back. How good Marciano would have been as Jack Dempsey. How good would he have been, in this era. Or Jack Johnson, who people forget about, first black heavyweight champ ever. I mean, that guy was great. That guy was a pioneer. That guy was different. If you could take him and put him in this era, everything would adjust, would adapt to, where he would now be able to make himself availed to the nuances that are there that weren't there, the things, the training methods, or the training technology, the science of it, the benefits of the physical benefits that are there as far as nutriment, as far as different forms of cardiovascular training, blah 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 blah. You take him and his mindset and his talents, and you bring him to this era. All of that would adjust to that era. So it's hard to really calculate beyond their own era. You can only calculate it with the era, and then do the best you can to say, okay, if he went to this era, he would be smaller, but there were smaller guys in that era. There were bigger guys, but we had guys like Holyfield who were able to do it. We even had guys, if we go back in this great sport long enough, sport that's been around longer than any other sport, we go back in the 20s, the early part of the 19th century, the 30s. Well, you had fighters that were fighting 200 fights, 150 fights, some of them over 200 fights. They were fighting all the best fighters, and they were fighting in catchweight. I mean, you had a guy named Sam Langford. Who the hell knows Sam Langford other than me? Talking about it, and I'm kidding. But there's not enough people out there that do know it. They know baseball, they know basketball, they know football, but unfortunately they don't know for the boxing. And I feel bad about that the young fans don't get to know about a Sam Langford. Sam Langford in the 20s, oh my God, that guy had over 200 fights. That guy fought from lightweight to heavyweight. I'll say it again in case you think that I made a mistake. He fought from lightweight to heavyweight. I mean, and he, and he had success obviously in all those areas. So all those weight classes. To me, Usyk, how does he translate? Where does he wind up overall in the sport as far as his greatness? One of the great winners of our time, of any time. That's where I start. Forget about Cruiser, this, error, size, talent, be good. He knew how to win. He won. Like you said, he won as an Olympian, he won as a cruiserweight, then he went up to heavyweight. He fights a bigger heavyweight than Joshua, who also happened to be a gold medalist. He fights him in his home country, doesn't beat him once, beats him twice, to make sure it wasn't an accident. I mean, he deserves his due. His due for the beginning of it, for me, would be put him there as one of the great winners. People are going to always argue, but the competition, blah, blah. You can only have the competition of your era. Yeah, I mean, unless you invent some kind of time machine and you go back, that's all you can do. You can only have that, but you can project how good he was. And there is something that is consistent with whatever era you would have put him in. At his era, he found a way to win. He knew how to win. He is, people make an argument about, again, the guy. And even the argument, to me, that don't even hold water with competition. I'll tell you why. For his era, if you happen to open your eyes and actually look, Usyk beat everyone who's a heavyweight champ now. Yeah. He beat them all. Dubois, who's tremendous story right now, what his story of redemption, of what he's done, tremendous. He beat him. He beat, obviously, Fury. He beat Joshua twice. I mean, what more? For his time, what more do you want the man to do? So for me, for Teddy Atlas, he he gets a high mark. You know, I mean, again, a lot of people say, well, I want to see him against, you know, you saw Ali with Foreman, you saw Ali with Frazier. You know, yeah, and you saw, and listen, great fighter. But you also saw Ali with a lot of guys that weren't of that status.
Yeah.
You know, just like you see anyone when you look through the annals of time in the history of this sport that have those kind of fights on their resume. Hey, great is great. You know, a winner is recognizable at any era. I recognize Usyk as great, as a winner, a special guy.